I said earlier today that I had a piece I wanted to share with you that were very timely. These are words of Martin Luther. Obviously, he spoke German, so they've been translated into English. But they are in Luther's Works, volume 43, pages 131 to 133. It is entitled, Whether One May Flee from a Deadly Plague, an open letter to Reverend Dr. John Hess. These words are timely. They're as if they were written yesterday, and they should be heard again today. Martin Luther writes, Others sin on the right hand. They're much too rash and reckless, tempting God and disregarding everything which might counteract death and the plague. They disdain the use of medicines. They do not avoid places and persons infected by the plague, but lightheartedly make sport of it, and wish to prove how independent they are. They say, this is God's punishment, and if he wants to protect them, he can do so without our medicines or our carefulness. But this is not trusting God. It is tempting God. God has created medicines and provided us with intelligence to guard and take good care of the body so that we can live in good health. If one makes no use of intelligence or medicine when he could do so without detriment to his neighbor, such a person injures his body and must beware lest he become a suicide in God's eyes. And by the same reasoning, a person might forego eating and drinking, clothing and shelter, and boldly proclaim his faith that if God wanted to preserve him from starvation and cold, God could do so without food and clothing. Actually, that would be suicide. It's even more shameful for a person to pay no heed to his own body and to fail to protect it against the plague the best he is able, and then to infect and poison others who might have remained alive had he taken care of his body as he should have. He is thus responsible before God for his neighbor's death, and is a murderer many times over. Indeed, such people behave as though a house were burning in the city and nobody were trying to put the fire out. Instead, they give leeway to the flame so that the whole city's consumed, saying, if God so willed, he could save the city without water to quench the fire. No, my dear friends, that is no good. Use medicine. Take potions which can help you. Fumigate house and yard and street. Shun persons and places wherever your neighbor doesn't need your presence or has recovered. And act like a man who wants to help put out the burning city. What else is the epidemic but a fire which, instead of consuming wood and straw, devours life and body? You ought to think this way. Very well. God has allowed the enemy to send us poison and deadly refuse. Therefore, I shall ask God mercifully to protect us. Then I shall fumigate, help purify the air, administer medicine, take medicine. I shall avoid places and persons where my presence is not needed, in order not to become contaminated, and thus perchance infect and pollute others, and so cause their death as a result of my negligence. If God should wish to take me, he will surely find me. And I have done what he is expected of me, and so I'm not responsible either for my own death or the death of others. If my neighbor needs me, however, I shall not avoid the person or place, but will go freely, as stated above. See, this is such a God-fearing faith because it is neither brash nor foolhardy, and does not tempt God. However, if someone has contracted the disease and recovered, they should keep away from others and not admit them into their presence unless it be necessary. Though one should aid him in his time of need, as previously pointed out, he in turn should, after his recovery, so act toward others that no one becomes unnecessarily endangered on his account, and so cause another's death. Whoever loves danger, says the wise man, will perish by it. Ecclesiasticus 3:26. If the people in a city were to show themselves bold in their faith when a neighbor's need so demands, and cautious when no emergency exists, and if everyone would help ward off contagion as best they can, then the death toll would indeed be moderate. But if some are too panicky and desert their neighbors in their plight, and if some are so foolish as to not take precautions but aggravate the contagion, then the devil has a heyday, and many will die. Luther's Works, Volume 43, pages 131 to 133. Whether One May Flee from a Deadly Plague. An open letter to Reverend Dr. John Hess. Let those who have ears hear what the Spirit says to the church.